Welcome back, guys. The LCK Summer Promotion, and my God, Lehens, what a beast. In game number 1 of this series, KONGDOO versus Griffin. I honestly didn't believe in the composition from Griffin after the first few minutes. Honestly, out of the gate, KONGDOO actually looked really, really good. It wasn't what we were expecting from KONGDOO, but then time and time again, the average hit rate on the Pulverize was about 3.5 people. Just nuts.
League of Legends in full display in game number 1, but Griffin definitely not dominating KONGDOO Monster like you might imagine. And Atlas, let's bring back the curtain a little bit for our fans.
Yeah.
You do have the nickname over here in the LCK of your actual name in Max, and we're talking about Max Games, as you're always about the 6-game nights. It could definitely be a 9-game night because Griffin, contrary to expectation, did not blow away KONGDOO, and we could definitely have a 3-game series.
We could, and we'll see whether KONGDOO is going to be able to turn it around. It is going to be a side swap this time around. Didn't see any switches as far as red or blue in our first series. This is going to be the first time we are going to see Griffin move over to the red side, the side that has been coveted by most of our teams so far. See whether the victory will now come more swiftly for Griffin or whether KONGDOO Monster do have a first pick that can confirm this for them. We'll find out right now as we get into Champion Select. See whether the bans change as well. Skarner going to be taken away, so that already adaptation here from KONGDOO.
I do feel like so far we've seen pretty little value out of blue side first pick. We saw the Zoe not work out, the Swain disengaged. In general, first pick has not really been there on this match. I feel like teams got better at playing against what seemed like an OP in Swain, and the first pick, flex pick that you kind of desperately want, or a jungler that's just too over the top, hasn't really been there with all the adjustments, and the counter picking with Yasuo and Vayne and other picks lying around means that red side is going to be, for at least the foreseeable future, the side you want to be on. So KONGDOO Monster, for now at least, they're going to ban away the Skarner. Tarzan was the only one who was really trying to increase the pace of the game in game 1. While he wasn't able to do it, didn't necessarily fall hopelessly far behind either.
No, had certainly some options there. Olaf is going to hit the bench though, Griffin not wanting to see that. Raze, of course, has shown that he can play the early game quite effectively. Wasn't necessarily the be-all and end-all of the early game in game 1, but he was on the Sejuani, so not exactly the champion that you expect that out of. It was his Jarvan that was able to really get things working when KONGDOO did look better with Raze in the jungle. Swain is going to cop a blue side ban.
I think Morgana will be the smart ban on red side because Kate Morgana or the Kai'Sa Morgana is already dominating. I think are two duos that teams find it very, very hard to beat in the 2v2. So Morgana priority has been going up. It's been first pick already today. See what Griffin wants to ban away, though. Many different ways to approach drafts, and maybe they have a composition ready to go, and they're actually going to ban away a flex pick and take away the Sion.
Yeah, Sion's going to go. It means that they can trade in the Kai'Sa and the Morgana if they want to, and KONGDOO are going to take that Morg. So now, does Griffin make sure that they get rid of the Kai'Sa to deny the combo?
Which one do you want less to deal with? It's kind of the one you have to talk about for Griffin, unless you want to really show us something different.
Kai'Sa Alistair could now be the bottom lane here that Griffin want to go for if Viper does want to opt into it.
It's such an interesting mind game because if you do see the Kai'Sa, do we just see Vayne Morgana on the blue side? Do we see crazy, spicy stuff go on? Does seem like the Kai'Sa priority, even though her current best friend in Morgana has been removed. It's going to be high, as Viper will be running around on the Kai'Sa. In terms of junglers, Trundle is probably the one that pokes its head out as being stronger than the rest, although Sejuani has seen plenty of priority, and seems like Tarzan wants to be on primary initiation, jump on the Sejuani.
Yeah, he's going to lock that one in by the looks. 3 seconds to go. Can switch over if he wants to, but nope. That is going to be the pig lady herself. Or the pig riding lady, I apologize, because Sejuani herself is not the pig. That's Bristle that I'm talking about. Raze immediately takes away the Zac, though has been a great champion for him. And you mentioned the Kate Morgana. That is exactly what KONGDOO is going to take into the matchup. And we know Caitlyn versus Kai'Sa, saw it in game number 2 of our first series of the day. That is a matchup that does work out very well for the Caitlyn.
That was the flexibility. That's why the Morgana red side ban is what I expected. Also, KONGDOO have been pretty poor at playing mid lane Sion. If you remember, they would consistently play it and then miss their timing. So I would have preferred the Morgana, but here we are with the Sion taken out. Still going to be a strong draft, and Griffin, they'll be going with the Tom Kench for now. Only the Sejuani a facilitator for the killer instinct.
I feel like the Tahm Kench is an interesting option here, though, just because Zach has such great options when Tahm Kench is involved. You just kidnap both. You've got a lot of options here as KONGDOO, as far as up against the Tahm Kench, and that lane doesn't offer a lot of power into the double range that KONGDOO are putting out with the extended range that the Caitlyn brings to the table.
You see the headaches. If you're not willing to go another range support and try to bully the Morgana 2v2, then you're just going to be taking it as a melee support. That's no fun at all. So I take your point, Atlas, but we'll see where the draft goes with it, as Abyssal Voyage could present some creative ways to engage. And now at least
the Sejuani in amongst it as well with that Abyssal Voyage, like you say.
Gangplank actually survived all the way the second round, but you will notice banned away, and Griffin is saying we'd like to play Ornn by banning away the Singed.
Yeah, Singed is going to go.
Weird for a team with Lehens on it to ban away Singed. In case you guys don't know, while he's known as a support player in pro play, he is one of the most famous Singed players in the world. Has so often been high elo spamming Singed when he's not on support duty.
Yep. A man that knew to laugh whenever you flung someone, even before it did it automatically. As the Karma is going to be taken away as the final ban here for game number 2. Viper. See which solo laner is going to pick up for either Sword or Rather. I have a feeling that Sword's pick does make the most sense. The safety of the Gnar could certainly be the option. Not going to be able to pick the Scion into it is Roach, but the Ornn would make some sense. KONGDOO, we're going to go there.
Our last pick for Rather. They will not be going for anything, and that means the Ornn is going to be sacrificed. Gnar versus Ornn. Very, very standard matchup in the top. If you think about how the grounded effect would have interacted with the absolutely can't disengage Zac, who has a black shield initiation, would have been pretty dirty, but that's, you know, gimmicky with so many things happening at the same time. Singed banned away. Ornn locked in, and we're just waiting for the mid lane pick here. Taliyah will be ultra safety, and then your question is, how are you feeling about your Yasuo?
How are you feeling about your Yasuo? How are you feeling about picking up, once again, the Vladimir, which is what Rather did take into it? It's going to be a very different composition, and they can't lean on Lehens to get these fights started exactly how they need to and carry them through the late game this time around.
Rather's been an initiator. He's still a big Galio player, but they could go Vlad if they want to surrender early. See what the decision is. The Galio is going to be the choice, so they're reining it in. I mentioned that Vladimir felt more greedy than Galio when it came to their approach to the Game 1 draft. They go similar, and this time they go for the more mid-game spike of the Galio.
Yeah, and a massive amount of beef on this team as well. So not a lot of range coming out of Viper, but a lot of mobility with that Supercharger if he is going to go that route, with the Hurricane involving the Rage Blade there as well. Get yourself invisible as quickly as possible. And then the rest of the team is going to be tanky, is going to be offering the CC, and Rather can allow Viper to skirt around these fights and get all of that damage in. Lehens keeping him safe as well. Griffin, this is one of those burly comps that you see from a lot of our teams in the LCK.
Could be a lot of priority to be facing them in the early game, though. The Caitlyn lane, predictably, will beat the Kai'Sa lane. The top lane Ornn actually does very well against Gnar in the early game, and Taliyah will outpush Galio, whose early game wave clear was hit the most of his entire kit. So we'll see if Tarzan can create a bit of a ruckus before level 6, before things get a bit better, because there's no guarantees they can roll over the side of KONGDOO as easy as they might want to. There seems to be the Griffin way. They know what they want to do, but they are willing to sacrifice on-paper advantages to make it happen.
Yeah, not a lot of invading opportunities here for Tarzan. Not only does he have the Sejuani, but also, like you say, pushing lanes are everywhere. The Zac should be very, very safe, moving around his jungle, and we know that Raze has been successful on the Zac in the past. I believe that was one of the weapons that they used to take down KSV in their most recent match win, which felt like about 6 months ago. Certainly wasn't quite that far, but ladies and gentlemen, game number 2. Very different compositions from both teams. KONGDOO desperately trying to stay in this best of 3. Let's hit Summoner's Rift.
생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
Yeah, Griffin fans certainly swelling in the audience today. See, we are onto the Rift, game number 2. Griffin with a very burly, tanky composition so far. See whether Viper can do all of that hard carrying.
We'll see if the streaks can extend. If you're joining us late, Griffin are coming into this series off a 14-0 best-of-3 regular season, and KONGDOO Monster lost their 14 matches.
They did.
At the end of the regular season themselves, started 2-2, and then, yep, 2-16. Not the best. So
Viper just going to walk at Soul here, but not too much of a worry. And as we talk about, lane priority in the bottom lane is going to be prioritized from both teams, so going to wait until these minions clash.
A lot of things happening here. You would expect Zach to be topside to start off the jungle when he's not getting a leash, but Raze is trying to vary up his start by starting the red side and then going topside, trying to stop Griffin from getting an advantage, because you'll notice that Sword could give a leash not at the cost of his bot lane. So you would think if that's happening, you follow it up, that you can invade quite easily and stop the double camp of Blue and Gromp being claimed. So a lot of mind games about exactly the jungle swing, exactly the pathing, and that's why Ray's trying to mix things up.
Yeah, I do like keeping your opponent guessing when it comes to Zach and his pathing, because it can be a little bit dangerous. He's actually going to take his Raptor camp very early on here as Raze, so not even going to beeline it over to the Gromp and the Blue. We do see a lot of our Zacks doing.
That's why I always love the jungle pathing game, where teams will do things that are unexpected. Before, when we had the old rune system, we had experience quints and other creative ways to get level 3 and weird approaches. As Ronnie, after all, has actually just gone red into wolves into blue buff, and it's going to be spotted out by Edge. So more pathing information for Raze than for Tarzan.
Yeah, which is great news for anyone playing the Zac. Understands that the Sejuani is on the other side of the map, exactly where Raze wants her.
2v2, double ranged against Kai'Sa, a short ranged 525 range carry on patch 8.6, and the Tahm Kench. And we also will be denied the Alistair, or a hard engaged support from Lehens, who was easily MVP of game number 1. It's all about getting Viper to that point where you start stacking on some utility shields, some damage amp, and Kai'Sa does the rest. Could still get there. But as we mentioned, game 1, criticized Griffin for going really far into the late game. They've taken a half step back, but certainly not a full step, Atlas, as the Galio not going to have the happiest early laning phase against the Taliyah.
Yeah, this does feel like one of those mid-game compositions that we see out of teams like Kingzone all the time, but there's going to be the catch. Rather, going to get himself out of there, and his teleport was just used and now already down to about no health. Refillable potion will be amped up by the Dark Seal, but that's not enough, and Raze, that's a great first gank.
Edge had more mana. I think they would have double flashed to try to get the kill, because Q was up on Raze for the initial knock of heads, and he had red buff to burn, but unfortunately no damage really remaining on Edge. Means that Rather will get away. It is electrocute, like you mentioned, so
yeah,
the aftershock not being there for the Galio makes him squishier in little instances like that.
It's been a while since we've seen the electrocute version of the Galio as well.
Seems greedy.
It does.
And that seems to be the story with Griffin and their drafting, because you go aftershock because you're just building Rod of Ages and ability power, right? So at the end of the day, the aftershock means once you go in, you're going to have resists. Now you're going to be very, very squishy for just a bit more burst.
Yeah. We saw this from MVP earlier on. As far as the Morgana lane is concerned, often being able to burn through a Black Shield is a fantastic thing. This is a lane that can't do that.
Nope.
On the side of Griffin. So that Black Shield will be up for the duration for the majority of the time. And
when it comes to team fights, it's true as well there, Atlas, because when it comes to the mid laner, as long as your Black Shield's not getting hit by the winds of war, do they have 300-odd magic damage to puncture through a Black Shield on the Caitlyn? Probably not. So that is something to remember. We saw, as you say, MVP visit the Vel'Koz support purely to ensure there would be no CC immunity that was going to be offered by the Black Shield. Not the case here by Griffin.
Yep. But this is one of those early games that will certainly be fine if Griffin can just get through it. You know, as far as what we're expecting.
I'd love to see Secret's max. Is he maxing the Tormented Soil? We saw BBQ and Ignar do that to try to get the power farm going on and the pushing going on in the 2v2.
Yep, Raze this time around is going to get spotted on the Infernal Drake. Will have to go home as well, I believe, unless he wants to take his Raptor camp with about 0 health.
And this is the game where mid lane priority can't be any more important. 2 mid laners who can roam with semi-globals means that double control ward on the bottom side is the god tier.
Oh, Viper losing out on this trade a lot, and Lehens even getting damage back, about half health for both of the laners here on the side of Griffin.
Calling it trades is kind of generous. Basically pin the tail on the donkey when it comes to damage coming out of the side of KONGDOO Monster.
Yep.
who do you want to hit? Because both of them are definitely not interested in any sort of extended skirmish.
But it is going to be very even farm, both of these 80 carries. Secret actually stealing one from Sol there, making sure that his support item is not going to work. Spell Thief's not able to register. Real disaster here.
Viper could not go into the Doran's Ring to make these as sustained wave clear wars. Has had to go Doran's Shield because of the double range, and that means he will be running low on mana if he tries to freeze the wave with the Q.
Yep.
By freeze, I mean stop it from pushing all the way into his turret by trying to wave clear as fast as possible.
Well, all of these minions are getting cleaned up very, very easily. Viper, in fact, last hitting phenomenally well. You'd expect him to not have parity as far as the CS in this sort of high-pressure situation when they're taking a lot of damage, but certainly does so. Winter War is now, with a few points in it, able to clean up these minion waves. Catalyst is done. We'll see what Rather decides to do, whether that will be the Rod of Ages, which has been so incredibly popular.
You only saw it for a half second, but no real turret damage has been done in the first 7 minutes to lead to, once again, remember, 10-minute turret was taken by KONGDOO Monster in game number 1 in the bot lane.
And do we feel like now in game number 2 that KONGDOO have even more of an advantage as far as being able to get that shove, being able to get that early game advantage?
You would think in the 2v2, yes, but because Galio can spare blushes post-6, the actual finishing of the turret is harder. It's sort of game where at 7 minutes, the turret could already have been, 50%.
Yeah.
And you might think, oh, it's going to go down before 10.5. But as we know, when the first brick or the first turret blood is actually there to be finished, that's where usually the enemy jungler is pathed down for a lane gank, the Galio's there for a counter roam. It's not a Vladimir mid lane that didn't have a teleport, it's a Galio. So actually killing the turret is much harder in this game, even if the harassing of it is easy.
Yeah. Well, Spellbook is going to be picked up here, so Lehens is able to teleport his way back in. Viper a bit of a move speed as he supercharges his way forward. He hasn't gone back just yet. They just want to get the counter shove. The back from Sol and Secret is going to mean that a few minions are going to be lost underneath this turret. Just really good at farming is Viper. 82 CS to now the 74. But he'll lose a couple on the way back, and that's going to be Pickaxe and BF Sword picked up for the Caitlyn. A lot of damage opportunities now, not actually opting in for any boots or any attack speed or anything like that. Just wants to be able to do as much damage as possible. Lehens, he's in trouble though. Oh no! Going to get bonked out of the way. That is going to be the Grey Health coming in. The ultimate comes down. Kidnap avoided there by Lehens. As in goes the heroic entrance. Rather successfully saves his support, but they're unable to capitalize with any kills or anything of that nature.
Lehens doesn't use his summoner. Could go back and probably change over to a second teleport, but doesn't have the 2 shards, so wouldn't be able to do that. I apologize. Because
doesn't want to sack his flash cooldown as well. It feels real bad.
He's already changed his summoner once, so at this point couldn't double change. That's what you have to do to be able to pull that off. So we'll just walk back down. Doesn't need to. Red buff is disengaged.
Well, slightly different here from Viper.
It is a different type of red buff. It's an Infernal Drake, which is what I was thinking of when I said red buffs. It's still going to be very high priority, and you notice that Tarzan's here to check.
Yep. Doesn't take a lot of damage though, and there's Ace in the hole, traveling a very large distance.
Raze tried to take this earlier solo and was spotted out by Scryer Plant. This time 4 members. Gonna get it eventually.
Yep, we'll be able to do so. Nicely done by KONGDOO Monster. Grab the first dragon. Infernal is going to be added to their repertoire. At the moment, Sword has the push on the top side of the map, but doesn't have the CS advantage as Roach has been farming very, very well. Had his pick of the litter as far as the tanks so far this series. Gets the Scion, then gets the Ornn. The most Roach approach to the game you can possibly have.
And the chip nerfs to Gnar. The most recent one, I believe, live on this patch is the cooldown reduction on the Boomerang catch that was removed from the ultimate as you go on. Has meant that, honestly, he doesn't win the lanes as hard as he used to, and I feel like if you're going S+ tier top lane tank, which I would say is Ornn and Scion for laning phase, very often you'll come up to scenarios like this where the Gnar will lose trades, and the inevitability of Gnar pushing a tank is pushed back to 2+ items.
Yeah. Well, Griffin getting a bit of a shove here towards the bottom side, but look at this. With all of the AD available to Sol, the Peacemaker is so fast clearing out waves. Viper building, looks towards
Death Stance.
Yeah, is that Death Stance to start things off as well as the Pickaxe to start to augment?
Could be first item Death Stance, and I know that I always get excited when I see first item Death Stance because I wonder about Nashal's Tooth being built into one of those build paths. That's what I often see when Death Stance is first chosen But we can mention as a one-item power spike, it means when you take what might otherwise be a pretty dumb-looking Killer Instinct, you have so much damage reduction and lifesteal and I guess spell vamp from the physical damage that you're able to heal off, that you can actually take pretty good all-ins as the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, problem is the attack speed not necessarily being there, but with Supercharge helping you out there, that is certainly good. As Lehens, whoa, that Dark Binding was terrible. Out of Secret, but in goes Raze, still looking for the fight, gets the flash, gets the bonk together, Kidnap. Not going to happen though, as everyone gets separated, and in comes Griffin. Raze does have a black shield, but that's not the one they want. Lehens is actually able to grab the kill onto Soul, of all people. Now Griffin want to capitalize and grab more.
And that was just a straight up mistake, because if you notice, there was no flash there from Viper. He didn't have to get knocked out. Was that just not the full duration from Raze? I'd have to see the replay.
Yeah, that was very
confirm.
strange.
But it looked like he was going to get the kidnap. He doesn't, and it's turned around very quickly.
Yeah, we'll have to check in on the instant replay, guys, to figure out what actually happened. Looked like it was exactly the opposite of the interaction that you wanted as a Zac. We are going to see it right here.
So it looked like this was going to be the God tier, because Raze goes in and gets everything he wants. The Q hits, the flash, the R.
Well, that
Interesting there. Was that... I actually don't know what the interaction... That was the ultimate. It was actually able to ult out as
right,
far as I could
yeah.
tell. That was the Killer Instinct on the end, dodging up the knockout.
Because you can choose the position around the opponent.
Interesting. That is a unique mechanic I didn't even expect, but use the ultimate defensively to actually get out.
Absolutely amazing. And then the flash from Lehens was the option there. So no weird interactions. It was just smart League of Legends coming in from Griffin. They turned it around and capitalized.
You just feel terrible if you're Raze, because you're probably just double checking yourself and wondering, how did that even happen? But
yeah,
that meant that he was able to get out. Viper able to live another day with his flash up. Notice that Rather didn't have to use his ultimate either to make that roam down, so more tools available to Griffin than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, and the Death Stance now completed for Viper, so he's actually able to take a lot of punishment down here towards the bottom side and heal it back up. You can see tanking minions is absolutely no problem. As he is going to land it. Killer Instinct not available just yet. He's up in a couple of seconds, actually.
Unless he steps on multiple traps, I don't think there's almost any way for him to lose the 1v1 against the Caitlyn.
If he has his Q available as well, I mean, that's the reason why Death Stance is so damn good, because the Cathian Rain just gives you so much health back.
This build is a different type of Kai'Sa. The Rage Blade is all about find a way to get 6 stacks, and then whether it's a tank or a neutral objective, you're killing it because of your ability to apply those plasmas with the double attack on the Phantom hit. If you're going Death Stance, you can go in aggressively. You might as well be a purple build Vayne from Season 2 or 3, playing the side lane with a Youmuu's Ghostblade and the Blade of the Ruin King. So, very much a super powerful point, and now you can't force her out of lane even if you're Caitlyn. She can walk up, and between Doran's shield and all of the sustain from Death Stance, she doesn't give a monkeys about this Caitlyn.
Absolutely not. It's exciting to watch, and I really like the fact that we've seen so many different builds for this Kai'Sa. All we know is that she's strong. We don't know what she's supposed to build necessarily, because a lot of them have been successful. In comes Raze, though, and he's actually unseen towards the bottom side.
See if Secret can make more of this play.
Oh, he's going to try and find Lehens, but actually doesn't get on top of him. Dark Binding is going to land, but now Viper, he wants it. 1v3, jumps right in on top, and that's because he's got the hero's entrance to come down. Tarzan was thinking about the dive, but doesn't actually come in because they knew that Edge was down here with the Weaver's Wall. Oh, so much aggression controlled from Griffin.
Execution not fantastic on either side, but both back away, and Griffin will still like where this game is going. With the comp they've put together, hero's entrance again. Nothing to write home about, so Rod of Ages starts to stack up. A lot of standing gold, but compare this to Game 1, where around this point, it was 3 turrets dead for the side of the Caitlyn comp from KONGDOO. It's not quite as much investment in the early game, but it's still one where they had 3 lanes with lane priority at least early. And that priority right now is just theory. That piece of paper can be ripped up because we're already 15 minutes into game number 2.
Yeah, and it's a 1,000 gold lead for Griffin, which goes against the script. We were talking about the textbook that KONGDOO were reading for game number 1. They haven't really paid much of an attention to that one. And also, if they pass the exam, I mean, now they're failing the same exam.
And the answer key for the exam is starting to waver, Atlas, because with the Death Stance, we now have 100 AD put together and a Q evolve first after a couple of series where we have seen a heavy emphasis onto the Supercharge evolve. That's what Prey has been enjoying. That's what we saw in series number 1. I'm hoping this is what Kai'Sa becomes, a champion that can build situationally. Like I mentioned in our first series, it's kind of the one thing AD carries haven't had, So most people are fixed. The most excitement is it going to be Iceborne, Gauntlet, or Trinity Force for an Ezreal?
Yeah, that has certainly been it. As Viper can now follow up if he wants to, but just get some good
That
damage.
Q damage.
What the heck? If he had procced that Plasma, I have a feeling Secret could have just straight up died.
I don't think the W kills here, but it gets close as it was going to be blocked by minions.
Yeah. The thing is, Griffin have so much control down here towards the bottom side. Still with the flash available for Viper. He's holding on to it. They don't want to make overly aggressive plays because Griffin understand that they're moving into their sweet spot. They're moving into the zone of the game where they will have all of the control.
I bet there's a lot of damage to neutrals with just the Q evolve as well.
Yeah. Well, Edge, he set himself up, standing on top of a control ward as well as Raze moves himself over. Want to pull it out of the pit, but it is actually just going to be the full disengage here for Griffin.
This wall used proactively to check, I would imagine, when it's used there, and instantly going to be put down, so that's a wall you might want a receipt for.
Yep. Rather as well on his coveted Galio that he played a lot in Challenger is just hanging out in the mid lane, keeping tabs on the minion waves. Proto Belt will be the next option as now we've got our boots upgraded. Berserker's Greaves here for Viper when he goes back home, but otherwise not too much augmentation to the build. And Soul, we're talking about SMLZ's love for Infinity Edges. This is full Maha for Soul at the moment. He's grabbing straight up Infinity Edge before anything else and then grabs some daggers.
Makes your trap auto attacks pretty cool, but otherwise nothing too massive. A little bit of bookkeeping we didn't mention is when it comes to the promotion teams, we had no one that had any sort of LCK experience. We haven't had former LCK pros trying to come through. No one on the side of Griffin has played at the highest level. Lahen's the closest, playing in a promotion tournament before. The only person involved actually that has that experience that we should talk about is Griffin's coach, because Griffin's coach is CV Max, who used to be one of the top laners for Rebels Anarchy a couple of years ago. Nice little attempt to steal by Tarzan that doesn't get it. It was CV Max and Ixu fighting for that position on what became the FLICKR Freaks and in many ways the Rocks Tigers later.
Yep.
But CV Max is a name that other people would know, a bit like Lahen's in that he was a solo queue god, but did play a little bit of games, just a few games before he retired during the 2015 summer season.
Well, so far doing fantastically well in this series. You got Griffin. They are going to catch out Raze. Will they be able to get enough work done? And the answer is not quite. Because now Viper jumping underneath the turret is, my god, that Q evolve is ridiculous this early in the game. Raze getting on over as, yeah, Viper will have to try and get his way out. Will he be able to get himself on top as he moves himself over? Raze takes a lot of damage, but he gets popped back. Lahen's right in amongst the fight, but has the grey health to work with. And now Viper, he's in a safe spot. Sword jumps forward, wants to find the Gnar, but only gets a boulder onto Edge. Now, once again, you've got the disengage. I was sure KONGDOO could find something there.
But the question is, can they find something and play around the hero's entrance? Their answer was no. A lot of respect being shown. Some nice side steps from Viper as well. Griffin going to pull back. Viper at full health. That's what happens when you have a death stance.
Yep.
Will be second Drake of the game. No Infernal. Well, the next Infernal will spawn as number 3.
Yeah, we'll see whether KONGDOO can pick that one up for themselves, make it the double, or whether it's now Griffin's turn to take control of this game. I have a feeling in the next 6 minutes, Griffin will still have a bit of a stranglehold. It's 26 minutes in, feels like a time where a Galio composition is going to be well and truly online. Teleports were invested from both top laners. Roach moves himself back up a little bit earlier. He almost has his Abyssal Mask, and the Ornn is still going to be strong. Didn't find the ultimate that he was looking for in the last team fight. Could be an opportunity as we move further and further into this game. Sword catches the mini wave just fine. We've got Rageblade coming in, second item for Viper. Understandable choice, wants to get that supercharger working.
Situational second item coming through from Rather. He has gone for the Proto Bell.
Yeah.
Usually used after the ultimate for the reposition, then into the taunt. Can use it after the taunt also, just to get all of the Proto Belt bolts to hit, given your guaranteed short range. Fishing starts from Viper, who's going to be going for Rageblade second. Very interested to see where he goes with the third item.
Or is it Nashor's?
Could be. Essence Reaver at this point feels like overkill on the AD side, and you want the attack speed. So we'll wait and see. Be cool to see, though.
I'd really like it personally.
It was one of the favorites of Ruler when it comes to LCK AD carries.
You could see him. He really wanted to throw out that Killer Instinct. But you've seen Viper really likes using it as a reposition in a fight. He holds onto it as if Killer Instinct is actually more of a defensive tool rather than that aggressive I'm going to dive in tool. Really excited to see the different use of the Kai'Sa for a lot of our players here in the LCK.
I mean, my instinct right now is that Kai'Sa's overtuned. I think everyone can agree that she does a little bit too much of everything and can hard carry at the late game.
Yep.
But I agree that when the numbers are in the right spot, the flexibility of the kit and also the outplay potential, those are things that will stick around, and those are things to embrace rather than just, hey, her power level seems pretty high.
Well, I mean, being able to just wander up and press Q and have it automatically just destroy the opponent 80 carry is pretty silly. Yeah. Glacial Prison available here for Tarzan as he moves on over. We know exactly what's going on over the side of KONGDOO, though, as Raze, he's down here. Gonna poke his head in, of course, have to check up the river because there's a Galio and a Talia who are looking to find their way in. Griffin with a decent position. They're clearing out as many wards as they possibly can. Monster down here feeling the pressure. Top lane still just fighting it out. We'll have a Mega Gnar available, but no teleport, remember, guys. So in goes Tarzan. He does find the 80 carry. Heroic entrance comes down as well. But Sol, he's alive for a long time. Killer Instinct does manage to lock down that kill as now Edge, he's pushed out of the way. Raze under a turret at the mercy of Griffin right now. They'll probably just take down the turret or... Okay, they're just going to catch on top of Raze. He's certainly dead, as the Bloblets will not be able to survive through this one. No teleports to keep him alive, and Edge just looks on in dismay as his jungler gets obliterated after his bot lane already was.
And I have to say, I was looking on dismay a little bit, wondering where the black shield was. I'll have to watch the replay to catch it, but seemed like the Sejuani came more proactively out of the corner of their eyes, and they got no value out of the disengage. Train down Sol. Very easy cleanup by Viper. He gets solo gold as well. We can watch the replay. It was down. Look at this. It's on cooldown. Tarzan says thank you very much and walks in. And it's so proactive that even though the jungler was in lane, it doesn't matter. One ability being on cooldown was the start. That was very nicely cleaned up by Griffin.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Raze, I mean, the kidnap was used defensively to get out of underneath his own turret and had to elastic slingshot his way back in. It was a bit of a disaster when it comes to the jungle play. KONGDOO Monster really having to play on the back foot now. Goodness gracious me. Win rate with first turret's 100% this time around. First blood was, it was an abysmal 96% or something like that, but now 100%.
Again, guys, they lost 2 games in the season. 2 games. Much better than CJ Entis, who was on a similar streak then actually lost a match towards some of their dominant series.
Yeah.
They went 14-0 and dropped 2 games, so they have been outrageously far ahead. And speaking to players, whenever I asked anyone who had played with Griffin, who knew Griffin from the LCK, as I hold the point, as Edge is just dead.
Edge is just dead, yeah. You don't need to hold the point. You could have just...
They all said the same.
Called that one.
They all said the same thing, Atlas. They said, I said, you know, who's going to get through? Like, how good is Griffin? They all said, oh, it's going to be Griffin and another team because Griffin has been competitive with some of the better teams in the LCK and scrims. Are they as good as them? No, we can see even from game 1, they definitely have some holes in the playbook. But they are definitely not an afterthought, and it took game 2 getting going to really see why the hype is there, because I thought that game 1 was pretty weak, all things considered.
It was. I felt like the draft needed a little bit of work as well. There are certainly a few things that need tweaking, but this game has been dominance, dominance, dominance. 6,000 gold now, the lead. There is not a moment in this game where it looks like Griffin have not held control, despite, on paper, their lanes not being good as far as the opposition was concerned. They picked themselves into losing lanes that weren't able to shove, didn't necessarily have an aggressive jungler that could help out, and Raze should have had the easiest time jungling and had just a bevy of options when it comes to the game, but it was just Griffin playing it out really, really smoothly.
I mean, if they win this game and go up 2-0, you have that interesting duality, Atlas, where you sit back and say, are they counterpicking themselves because they have to pick teamfight, and teamfight usually has weaker lanes to make up for the teamfight? Or are they counterpicking themselves, you know, because they're flexing or because of comfort? Why are they opting into these drafts? What came first? The inability to play early game or the strength of playing those late game team fights? Those are questions we don't fully know from this series. And again, hard to infer too much when they were clearly a level ahead of the rest of Challenger. But if they get through the early phase with a team fight comp, there are really not many options when this Kai'Sa's running around, and everyone has to run away. It's not quite the Nash's Tooth, it is the Hurricane, but yeah, she's pretty much just gonna 1v3 at most points.
Yeah, this is once again the Viper show when it comes to the damage as well. It was the Lil Hens show as far as the playmaking in game number 1, but Viper was doing so much work on that Kog'Maw, and now once again, 100% kill contribution, 3-0-2 on the Kai'Sa, making the defensive plays when he needs to and the aggressive plays when he needs to as well. This 80 carry has been extremely impressive up against Sol, the man who we thought was going to be the only option here for KONGDOO.
Tarzan has 430 gold generated to the quest towards his Remnant of the Watchers, turning into Eye of the Watchers that he has already. That means that the teamfight comp will have a sweeper advantage and a ward advantage, and they're just going to try and throw that ultimate in and win. And they don't really have to hit it too good to get the killer instinct to start things rolling.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is they can actually be pretty brazen about which fights they take. They're almost 10,000 gold ahead, and their Kai'Sa can go in and out, has both summoners up, and that's already too much to talk about.
I actually think it's kind of cool being able to build Remnant of the, what is it, Equinox, and then into the Warmogs for the activation guaranteed by the extra health that you have.
That's a little...
on the Remnant.
I like that. You actually point out a pretty nuanced thing I hadn't considered, is that after the Nurse to Cinderhulk and also the Warmog's activation, you need more from somewhere. And the fact that it gets wards a sweeper and brings on the Warmogs is a fun little triumph. It's a nice triangle. As speaking of triangles, triangle damage coming out from Viper.
Yep, Secret taking way too much there as he just throws the Void Seeker through just to see whether he can fish for anything.
He can.
Starting to do a lot of damage there as well. As they're just going to start off the Baron. Okay, this is aggressive.
Teamfight comp can turn off it pretty easily, and they do a lot of damage to it too. Raze in the zone.
Yep.
Down to 4,000.
It's very, very low. They're just using the CC to try and get Raze out of the way. There we go. He jumps forward, but not quite in time as Sword gets himself over. Raze gets a kidnap back, but that is not what they want. Big knockups to come in as now Tarzan taking loads of damage. That was adorable from Rada, who just has punched his way into absolutely nothing, and that's going to be the big kill down onto Raze. Good snipe from Sword, and they get themselves the Baron as well.
Trapline spared the blush, as if it wasn't there, then we would have seen Viper pop off. He couldn't, as Galio's back. He's going straight in.
Yeah, Justice Punch onto Secret. Really good Black Shield timing, but now has to use it on himself. Roach doesn't have that option as Lehens. He's just really hungry for some kills, and Roach, he may not necessarily be the greatest target, but he still dies. Viper, just so much damage right in here.
Flashes in for the kill, doesn't quite get it.
Sol over to the side, not going to take too much from the W as Edge trying to clear out the minion wave, but remember, Baron buff means that he's not able to. Sword right underneath this turret almost has the Mega Gnar available for himself, and that is going to be a very swift inhibitor taken down by Griffin.
If Sword hadn't failed to disengage earlier in the fight, might have even been more, but they're so far ahead they can afford a couple little mistakes.
13,000 gold out of nowhere, Papa.
Outrageously far ahead, and for KONGDOO Monster, it won't be a perfect game, but the 2-0 for Griffin that the fans thought might be coming. Would this finally be the team from Challenger that vindicates the hype? Raze got hit by 2 different CCs, but he could get in there, could not. As the fight goes on, the trap line actually makes this a lot more competitive. The traps and also the Orin ultimate zoning out any hope of the chase coming through from the Kai'Sa. You get the little snipe there from Sword, max range boomerang. They back away. The gold is now outrageously far ahead for Griffin. And KONGDOO Monster, sadly, they're going to be playing again, and not after too long in our losers match.
They are. They're going to probably have about a 20-minute break and then stick in the booth. Continue on against Ever 8 winners if this is going to go the way that it looks like it is.
All right, rather. Get your Magi, Soul Stealer. Okay.
Oh, he's got 7 stacks, dude. That's the dream.
That's the Manor Magi
He's
right there.
He's got the stack and items, though. You know, he's got 10 stacks on his Rod of Ages. Wants to get to that 25 on his Magi's as well. This reminds me of my solo queue games against Katarinas that just make me feel like really awful. I was going to say a lot of things there, but none of them were really appropriate.
To be fair, if you looked at the enemy team and saw a Gnar with Rageblade and a Magi's on the Galio, you'd feel pretty tilted.
Yeah,
if
especially
you
like
didn't have the context of game number 1.
Pre-30 minutes, Viper with Rageblade, Death's Dance, Infinity Edge Hurricane? Nah.
Lehens has been the unsung hero of this game as well. This man never uses summoners unless he has to, has been there for the disengage, 100% kill participation as well.
Yep.
The League of Legends that we talked about in game number 1, not as obvious when he's not on engaged support, but his Tahm Kench is certainly impressive too.
Yep, showing us that he can play both styles as well as Raze. He doesn't want to go in, not with this one, as they've got engages. The hero's entrance comes down, Secret's just dead. Pop goes everyone. What the heck was that as Raze tries to get a kidnap, but that is not what he wants to be doing. Viper over to the side, but the Death's Dance, you can see staggering the damage, and he's going to survive. All of the health coming back, and now Griffin are playing with their food. They just want to finish this one off. 30 minutes in, the 2-0 over KONGDOO Monster, and Griffin are going to do it. They're going to send themselves into that best of 5 on Thursday against MVP.
And at the Double Chance Atlas, we have the winners best of 5 in 2 days' time. Winner of that goes to LCK. The loser plays again. I don't know if we're going to see Griffin lose 2 best-of-5s. Maybe they will finally make their spot into LCK Summer after impressing in the Casper Cup. Too late for qualification for LCK Spring. This means that KONGDOO Monster will play in our next series. It will be KONGDOO Monster playing against Ever8 winners. So the pre-tournament favorites of MVP and Griffin will be playing in the winners match. It's gone to script. Not going to be 3 games this time. We'll see how Ever8 does as KONGDOO Monster, their tenure in the LCK, may end today.
It may, and it's something that we've all grown used to. We don't normally look at a roster for summer and see that a KONGDOO Monster team is on it, because that's just not where they belong. Ever8 winners probably feeling pretty happy to be going up against them instead of Griffin as well, given the fact that they have been smashed by Griffin repeatedly in Challenger this season. But will mean that they'll have to play themselves back through. Both of these teams will need to win now back-to-back matches. Will be the best of 3 here coming up right after what will be approximately a 20-minute break. And then they'll have to win that best of 5 against the loser of MVP or Griffin on Thursday, which will be taking place on that Sunday.
16 is the number that KONGDOO Monster desperately want to avoid. Their 16th best of 3 in a row is the match coming up after the break. They lose that one, they don't get a best of 5. They're all the way down to Challengers Korea Summer for the 3rd summer in a row. Griffin, they still have some work to do, I think, in the pick ban.
I think so too,
This is their style, this is how they play, but I think as they face an opponent like MVP, continue along the trend of semi-respectful to respectful in a Galio. Stay away from the Vladimir, because I think MVP would have won Game 1, and KONGDOO Monster, for their part, was pretty close to doing so as well.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about what we've sort of learned about Griffin as well, because their bottom lane has just been so extraordinarily impressive. Going into this, I was looking at Tarzan as being one of the main sort of playmakers for this squad. I didn't really understand how extraordinarily good Lehens was on an LCK level, and we know what teams have been doing to KONGDOO Monster, but Griffin have done basically the same thing. Game number 2, that was a schooling.
When it comes to Korean solo queue, if you're top of Korean solo queue every couple of years, then you're a great player, and Lehens has done it in multiple roles. I don't think anyone could have
with crazy champions as well.
Said anything about his mechanics, so he pulled off some great play here. Is 23,759 damage. That's, well, it's about the same as the rest of his team. 48 to 45% damage share there. Predictable for the Kai'Sa, who popped off in this game.
Yep.
Didn't really matter what KONGDOO were doing damage-wise.
If you imagine that graph as someone's hand, you can understand exactly what Griffin referring to, looking at KONGDOO in that particular match.
Giving them the index finger straight to the eyes and saying, we're ready to go. We got our Medjais.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Very impressive stuff, though. The 2-0 over KONGDOO Monster for Griffin. It was what people were expecting, but it was so exciting. Seeing exactly what Griffin were capable of. And I know you guys are looking forward to Thursday as well to see if they can run it back with a victory over MVP at the same time in that first best of 5 for our promo tournament.
And I'm looking forward to our final match of the night as we'll first check in with where we're at. So MVP versus Griffin, a best of 5. They're done for today. Not going to be seeing them until Thursday. The losers match, or the loser match, we're going singular, is going to be played today. It's a best of 3 between Ever8 and KONGDOO. Remember that MVP was just too good at being able to handle Xin Zhao, Zoe, the Ever8 specials. We haven't seen the Vayne yet today. Will KONGDOO Monster be able to handle the same question marks? Because I think Ever8, if they roll back what was working and fine-tune their gameplay, they're a real chance against KONGDOO.
I believe so as well, and I think that Ever8 showed us a lot of things that were really cute in game number 1. I mean, I used the word cute. It was a lot of the Ever8 special, you know, and I'd really like to see whether it does work out against KONGDOO Monster, because they were playing some slow League of Legends. They were allowed to because Griffin let them, but I don't think that Ever8's going to be able to do the same thing, because the Zins are going to be coming out. There's going to be lots of fire coming
in. That fire, about 15 minutes to join us. We'll be back soon. Let's get that League of Legends done.
Yeah, another best of 3 coming up. We'll see you guys after the break.
Coming up next, KONGDOO Monster. Ever 8 winners. 2018 League of Legends Champions Korea Summer Promotion.